Welcome to Color Me Happy. My name is Brandy Hofer. Thank you so much for being here today. I sure do appreciate it. I am feeling tired. I maybe, September got a little out of control, but it was things that there was no way I could say no to some of these things. So, I did say no to some though, so I'm really proud of myself. But I'm super pooped. But Art Academy started with our local public school district, and it's amazing. And we had the kids come for a studio tour, and we made like this big group painting, and the students are really special, and this just means the world to me, and I know it will make such a difference in both of our lives. And that's the cool, rewarding part, is that I will learn probably much more than they will from me. So that started, and that's the easiest part, to be honest, because I just get to show up and do cool stuff with young people. That's easy. The hard part is all the other life things, right? And I'm sure we all feel that, especially now when you're all gearing up and getting into a new routine, right? But this week on the podcast, we have Volta, aka Color Snack, and we had a really, really good time chatting about, we were really positive and had so much fun, which I think will be a breath of fresh air right now for everyone. So we actually talked about all the ways that Volta has figured out how to make money being a multifaceted creative. Of course, everyone's path is very different. It's just figuring out how you can be a self-motivated badass doing what you love. Doing what you're passionate about, getting up out of bed and being like, fuck, I love what I do, even though sometimes it's really, really, really hard. But I want to do it anyway, being stubbornly persistent. One of the best ways to do that is to look at your peers, research what they're doing, think, I'm going to try their shoes on and see what fits you best. So we talk all about the different things she does in the workshops, and it's really great. I love seeing others thrive, and she has a really great book that she did, and so learning how other people make what they love work, right? Speaking of doing what you love and dreams coming true, I'm leaving to New York in 11 days. That's why I'm anxious. Like, I'm sitting here sweating. It's scary. It's scary doing all those things and stepping away from your routine and your family and doing something totally going flying. And I just haven't done it in so long. I think 2012 is the last time I did any sort of art. I used to do lots of artist residencies, and so then I took a try at motherhood, and that takes a little bit of your time up. So I actually, this is my first big. Actually, no, that's not true. In between my kids, I went and saw an Andrew Salgado. He's a really amazing Canadian painter, and he was my idol. And I went to one of his openings in Toronto, but I mean, that's still within Canada. So I haven't done any international travel since my residency outside of Paris in 2011. So yeah, it's been a few years. I'm super scared and nervous. But I'm going. But I get to meet all sorts of amazing women that I've been working with, specifically in the Art Queens, which is a community we talk about a lot on the podcast. Some women from our own community, our Color Me Happy community, which if you're not a part of it, go for it. It's free, it's fun, and there's so many stunning individuals and friends in there that you can make potential friends. And people, you can see what they're doing and find out ways that you can be inspired. So we actually got to go to New York because of one of our art queens, Alicia Puig, who is co-founder of PXP Contemporary Gallery. And she showed our Taylor collection in the spring, partnering with our BHA gallery. And I don't know if I've told you all the story yet, but I will, if you have a minute. You're here, so I hope you do. So I had reached out to Alicia saying, after we had our opening, an exhibition, I was like, oh, I'd love to go to an art fair in like 2024. I can see myself having a little bit of time in 2024, maybe. Knowing myself, I probably won't. But I was hoping. And she's like, oh, great. Yeah, we're going in the fall to New York, and we're going in the spring, and we're full in the fall. And I'm like, great. I don't want to go in the fall. Like, I'm starting so many new things and have some big proposals in the fall. So that would be nope. And then, so I was like, thank you so much for considering me and keeping me in mind. You're the greatest and one of my greatest supporters, and I appreciate you and all that fun stuff. And then 3 days later, Alicia messaged me again and said, you ask and you shall receive. And by the way, that's true. I've asked for almost every opportunity that I have had as a creative. It doesn't matter if you're creative, whatever you do, you ask for opportunities, or the worst thing someone can say is no, correct? And no's suck, but they're meant to be if it's a no. Anyways, this was not a meant to be no. This was she's like, you ask and you shall receive. The gallery next to us at the Affordable Art Fair in New York has asked if we will split a figurative artist wall with them. Are you in? And I was at the art store with my kids. And so I just like messaged back really as fast as I humanly possibly could. I was like, 1000%. My artwork is in. I just have to check if I can go to New York. I know it's not essential I go, but I really, really, really want to go to New York with my artwork. And so I had actually just bought or invested in for my business a brand new $7,000 Mac computer because I had to, because I edit audio, photography, video, everything all at once, writing my book all at once, and my computer was 8 years old and it kept crashing. So I just bought this monster $7,000 Mac, and I was like, I want to go to New York, but I can't because my Mac's sitting on my credit card, which I bought out of hope that I would figure out a way through business and things to pay for it, taking a leap of faith. I needed it for my business, and I had just kind of figured out how to pay for that and like gone above and beyond. And then New York came up, and I was like, I don't have the money sitting there to go to New York, because I looked at hotels and I'm like, holy moly, this is a lot. And it was like, pay for groceries and living or go to New York. So I sat on it for a couple of weeks. And then actually, so this is a great tip too, if we're talking about money and passive income, etc. My online classes took off. So it was crazy. And my friend Jessie Dahlquist had taken my portrait class and shared it with all her amazing creative friends. And so people loved it. And there was this like positive feedback and how much it just like, it's doing really great. And so all of a sudden I had put out into the universe, I really, really want to go to New York, but I really, really need the funds to go to New York. How am I going to do this? And then all of a sudden this great gift came along and was like, this is one of the ways you can support yourself as a creative and keep on thriving as a creative. So that's the story, and I'm going, and you will hear all about it and see all about it because I'm just like beside myself how it all happened. And So stay tuned on social media. And the Taylor collection, there are still a few pieces that aren't going to New York. There's not a lot left in the collection, but if you want to check it out, I would do it because they might go while I'm in New York. I mean, that's the idea of art fairs, is to sell the art. I really actually am just most psyched about meeting Alicia and Ekaterina and Juliana and all my friends from the Art Queens and all my art friends living in New York. There were so many. Sorry if I didn't list you. It's going to be a lot. We're going to have some dinner parties, I'm sure. Anywho, enjoy this beautiful episode, and thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions anytime, please feel free to reach out. And that is if you take the portrait class and you have questions about the portrait class, or if you take our Getting Creative with Kids, or if you have art questions about anything, or life questions. I'm happy to answer them, and you can find support in our Color Me Happy community. All right. Welcome, Volta Voloshin Smith. It's so nice to finally meet you. And I always follow what you're up to because, in all honesty, you're just really fun to watch. Your artwork and your creations are so just like they just radiate joy. So everyone needs to see, like, I love you do a lot of like animations and watercolors, and you have that beautiful book, and it's just, you're always up to something. So where did it all begin for you?
Oh my gosh, Brandy. Well, thank you so much for having me, and such a wonderful intro, and I appreciate your kind words. Where it all began, let's see, I guess maybe if we go back to my childhood, I grew up in Moldova, post-Soviet Union Moldova, and all of a sudden, like, we were flooded with all these like cartoons and media from the West when the Soviet Union fell apart. And one cartoon that really stood out to me was Sailor Moon. And I basically like grew up obsessed with that show, watched it, loved it. And then as I like grew up and then immigrated to the States, I kind of forgot about it. But it's so weird how like that impression, because that cartoon is 100% watercolor. Like, it's got all those elements that I love, like strong women, cats, beautiful colors, nature, food, like all those things. And I would say like that probably is kind of like where it sparked my love for watercolors. And I knew I was drawn to it, but I didn't remember right away why. So it was definitely that cartoon.
Rooted in Sailor Moon. I always, what's funny? I kind of forgot about Sailor Moon. And then we went to a twin birthday party and they had a Sailor Moon cake. And they're like, yeah, she's obsessed with Sailor Moon. And I was like, what?
Oh my God. Well, those parents are doing it right.
Remember, but now I'm just going to have to go back and watch Sailor Moon with a new appreciation for, what it meant to young women.
Yeah, it was like the first of its kind, I feel like, where like the protagonists were all women, and there's like a group of just these girls that were kind of like regular girls, but then they had to step into like these like super women kind of role of like protecting the earth. I don't know, it was like very cheeky and fun, and yeah, I highly recommend people revisit it. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, and when you compared it to like the Disney happy ending story, all life will be good once you find a prince and get married. So, I mean, yes, a much better message for young women out there.
Yes.
And overcoming all of those, oh gosh, that's such a big subject in itself. Maybe
I know. I'm sorry. I just kind of took it there.
Just a hard one. Yeah. Those challenges and stereotypes that we're still overcoming. So, when you practice, are you like me and you run your practice, you're like, I'm in my little, but you think so big in your little area of, we have our little studios but we impact in so many big ways. Do you have an in-home studio as well,
I
or?
do, yeah. So what you see right now, I'm in my studio. I'm very grateful to be able to like have this space. It's kind of like a self-contained, creative mess.
Right.
So that is really nice. Because prior to this, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and it was a little challenging because like my art stuff was literally everywhere. So just grateful to have the space, and this is where like I do all my art stuff, the illustrations, the animations, sometimes virtual workshops. I do them out of here too.
And where are you running your digital workshops most?
So I mean, usually via Zoom, but so sometimes I do them for the community through creative mornings, or clients hire me for their team building kind of efforts, so like we'll get together and they'll pick a theme, and then everyone gets shipped a watercolor kit, and then we'll paint virtually but together. So it's been really fun.
That's a great idea for so many creatives. And let's talk about being a multifaceted creative and having more than one income
Yes.
stream, because I feel like that is the key to opening so many more opportunities and opening doors for those opportunities, is through not just thinking I'm going to create one painting or
Yeah.
five and sell those paintings. I feel like when you open your mind to that, it can be so much more, that
Mhm.
everything builds and everything gets bigger. So do you want to talk about some of the other ways that you're being a creative, and what you offer, and
Yeah, I love this question, and I really hope that it like gives some more ideas to others who are listening. Because when I was first starting out, so I'm a self-taught artist, I didn't really know what was all out there as far as possibilities. But I just like want to encourage people to like be open to, if someone reaches out to you and they're like, "Hey, can you do live painting?" Even if you've never done it before at an event, I would highly encourage you, like, just give it a try. Like, say yes to opportunities because they could turn out to be something that you're really good at or you love, or it's also lucrative. So that was my case when I remember the first client that I got. They were like, "Hey, can you like we have this event, we're celebrating like local makers, there's something like that," and they're like, "Can you paint on the spot? Can you do live painting?" And I even had to look that up, and I was like, what is that exactly?" But I said yes, and I ended up loving it so much that I've gotten like that is kind of like one of my consistent kind of client gigs, is going and doing brand activation. So if, that's the like the marketing word for them, is brand activation, is you go into a place where they're celebrating a new product or something or event, and they love having artists on the spot where they're doing quick sketches or watercolor illustrations on the spot, and then handing them over to the guests. So the guests receive them as like complimentary, but then you get paid by the brand to be there and kind of enhance that experience.
Mhm.
So that was like kind of something that I stumbled upon very like accidentally, because I didn't even know that was a thing, that you could do that it was an option. And then another thing, of course, workshops. I always loved teaching, because that's kind of how I started my art blog. It's called Color Snack. And the idea was that it's like a small snack of color, like a small short 5-minute tutorial that can get anybody to do something creative. Like, it was very simple and approachable. And so that kind of like led me into doing actual workshops in front of people. So after doing like many tutorials and then Skillshare classes, so that's another like source of revenues, like having an online class that people can either purchase continuously, or if it's on a platform like Skillshare, there's like a pre-built audience in there as well. um I think Did I answer your question? I think.
Yeah, no,
I feel
it's
like,
really great, and I
yeah.
can attest to some of those things. Um, I I just got asked to do more live painting, and I had to say no because it was in September, and I do know how valuable those things are to get out in the community, but September is like an actual gong show, so there is power in saying no. But
Yeah.
I can attest to all of the things you're saying. I too have ventured into online classes. For me, as a stay-at-home parent, I I can't do like live Zooms as much or like show up like in a community live like consistently yet, right?
Mhm.
Because well, I already do the podcast. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
But like yeah, there's so much you can fit in, but I do have online classes available and they have been a really great revenue source. So
Mhm.
if you put in that initial work and you build that community and you build that the you find what works. Like I've also had classes that don't work, but once it's all set up, right,
Mhm.
it's a bit overwhelming at first, right? The
Yeah.
videography parts and the editing and all that great stuff. I mean, there's a learning curve, and I bet like figuring out, Skillshare and building a base on Skillshare. I bet like, do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I did a couple of classes on Skillshare and kind of I got burnt out only because I was like not really setting any boundaries, not resting. And at that time I was like constantly just doing things. But because I did have those classes on Skillshare is how I attracted a publisher to like offer me a book deal. So I'm super grateful that I did make them, and I'm actually thinking of creating a few more classes now. But it's been like, even though you definitely like get out of it what you put into it. So I would say like super successful artists on there like have a lot of classes, they're like kind of consistently creating them. So that hasn't been my experience, only because like I kind of like shifted focus a little bit, but I'm trying to get back into it, only because like I miss it. I love like just love teaching, and kind of like getting that fulfillment out of it. And then now that I've been constantly creating video tutorials and showing up on streams, and with time I just feel like I've gotten better at the production of things. So I feel like this time around it won't be as like mentally exhausting, because
Mm-hmm.
it was at first. I did like 3 or 4 classes, and when you're first starting out, it's a lot, and you're like have to figure out a lot of new things, and it was just like mentally taxing. But now I feel like I'm in a better mental space because I've had the experience. So I guess like I would definitely recommend someone, if they feel inclined to share something or to teach, just try with one class, kind of like take it slow. Don't feel like you have to like make one class every week or something like that. Like it's
That would
just
be great. That
that.
would be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people do it, but yeah, it's finding what you like to do and what you can do consistently, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
anywhere, what
Yeah.
you can sustain, because we don't want burnout or overwhelm.
Yes.
Sometimes happens, but yeah, what works for you and what you're passionate about sharing and then
Mhm.
showing up there
Mhm.
consistently, I think
Yeah.
is the best way, like instead of like throwing it everywhere and seeing, because it's unlikely that it will take hold. Like we can't do everything, right?
Yes. Yeah.
As much as we want to,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? So, what else? You certainly, so how is the book going? Like you got offered a publishing deal, and then so that takes a ton of time too, right?
Yeah. So that was like a 6-month effort as far as like me working on the content, and then 6 more months of going back and forth with the editor. So I'm very grateful to have had that support from their team, because this is my first book, and uh, I speak English really well, but it's not my first language. I don't know. It was like a new format of me like teaching. I'm used to like teaching and showing, but this was like I had to make sure my words convey the steps, you know. So it's like a new challenging way of doing the tutorials. But it was honestly the most fulfilling like creative project I've ever done. I'm like working on a couple of other book ideas and proposals that I'd like to continue on, because it's this is just like, I don't know, it brought me so much joy, and it felt like this is the perfect project for me.
There you go. See, that's a great example of exactly like if you find yourself somewhere and you're like, yep, this feels good.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
feels really good.
Yeah,
Right?
even though it was like hard and tedious, and you know, it's just not like the most fun of, I mean, it's fun in its own way, you know, but like I just remember like coming to like sit down and work on a chapter at a time, and I just like be grinning to myself, like like smiling to myself like an idiot. I'm like, I get to write a book. Oh my God. Like this, it
Yeah.
felt so good.
I keep this month, I'm just like, I just keep pinching myself. I'm like, how did I get here? And then I cry.
I know. Oh, I love those moments.
But that was after a lot of years of trying so many things that didn't work, that when you do find yourself in something that works, like truly you can feel it all the time, and you do feel just like overjoyed.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
and
it's totally worth it to like stick it, you know, kind of stick it out, because I know the journey has so many ups and downs, but it's so worth it. Like once you find those things that you just like in your soul feel like super aligned with, then it's all worth it. Like all those struggles are worth it.
And it's like you always have to take the light with the dark, like,
Yes.
and know that there's nothing that's going to be an easy, like, ta-da, you made it.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to come with its trials and tribulations. And yeah, with the editing process, yeah, sucks so hard. It's so long. But I finally got to record, which the recording process of a book, by the way, is like really challenging as well, and came with a lot of, but once I got into the flow with recording, I'm just like, is it okay to cry your whole audiobook, or probably not?
Yeah.
But there were just moments that I was so overcome with so many emotions that you know that you're on the right path,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Oh, it's like a magical feeling. I don't know.
just find the magic, everybody.
Yeah.
We're just in such a dreamy state. Find me in September when everything's happening. No.
Yeah.
It does feel like a pause in the summer, like a tiny break from you know, the hustle and bustle. And I know everyone's getting back into it, and it can feel overwhelming since we went through such a crazy transitional period. But I think it was a gift for many people in the way that it stripped everything away, and people could really find, you know, what their purpose was, like, why am I here, and what do I want to do with my time? I think that was like such a beautiful gift. How did that feel for you during that time of the pandemic?
Yeah. It definitely, like, I will say the time I spent reflecting on why food meant so much to me, like, I feel like it kind of helped me uncover like the reason why, because for the longest time I was like, well, I just love to paint food, I love to eat it, I love to paint it, you know. It's like, okay, but I, you know, kind of started thinking back, and when I was growing up in Moldova, I'd go visit my grandmother in the Ukraine, and she had this like beautiful garden, and in the summers, like there was like full of like fruits and veggies and things, and I just like have like these very special memories of the tactile experience of, like, you know, eating and touching those, like harvesting the berries and all those things. So it was like a very special kind of emotional connection, and it's exactly why, you know, I love to paint all food, but especially like fruits and veggies. I'm like so crazy about them. And I'm one of those people that, like, if I feel down or depressed, I'll go into a grocery store or like a farmer's market where I can see some fruits and veggies, and they like lift me up. I feel better.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you know, those are those moments in your life that really shape who we are. And
Mhm.
it always comes back to like family and
Yeah,
connection,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
those are so deep rooted
Yeah.
in, you know, why we do what we do.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that time and oh, it's just that's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it.
Oh, thank you.
And you know, spending time with the women in our lives uh definitely shapes who we are and you know
Yeah,
what we went through. And
yes.
I always think about like, you know, what was their life like and what like it's so different from ours.
Yeah.
And like they are the reason we are here.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about your relationship with your grandmother some more?
Yeah, yeah, I would love to. I mean, it was always like very loving. Like I always felt so like welcomed, and like she would always like look forward to like having me there. Um and you know, it was difficult like immigrating to the States because you know that definitely like cut our time short as far as like being able to visit as often. And then when she passed away, like we couldn't even go because it was like a last minute, you know, last minute flights across the pond are very expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think maybe a big reason of why I'm like trying to maybe like reconnect with that part of me where I wish I had more time to spend with her, or like now that I have this appreciation, like growing up, I was just like, you know, a little kid, like it's like, oh, like berries, let's eat berries, let's collect them. But now as an adult and kind of like looking back on um like how you know, in my mind it was like, oh, it's like summertime, is things are easy, but now I realize like how difficult it is to grow, you know, any type of fruit or veggie. It's like there's so much work and like persistence and perseverance that goes into like, you know, creating like the seed from the seed into like the fruit kind of thing. So just like I have this whole new appreciation of like all the hard work that went into that experience that I, you know, kind of wasn't even maybe aware of at the time. um so yeah, it's like a
But
very
not only
special
that, but like
moment in time.
yeah, for sure. Not only that, but like they produced food to live, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
something we don't understand really. Um,
Yes. So that's why
I
I'm
mean,
also
we come from a
yeah.
big farming community, so we have gardens all over.
Yeah.
And so right now I have literal boxes of like zucchini and potatoes
Oh,
and like
I love that.
onions and yeah, it's nuts, but like there's because we only have a short season, so there's so much that you're like
Mhm.
everyone's gifting it. It's really
Yeah.
great. And like things of rhubarb and right outside my window,
I
I
love
have
that.
just like a, I'm just like cut it up and freeze it because there's so
Oh,
much all at once. Um,
yeah.
but it is truly just there's such a special connection to I think the earth too, um,
Mhm.
that people just need. That's what we need as humans. And so then you take it a step further and represent it in your art. And I think people have this nostalgic, like, it's like a little piece of joy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
creating with you and seeing your work. Um, and are you wearing your apparel right now?
I I am. This is thank you for asking. This is one of my new designs. So I'm kind of experimenting with some prints. This is like a new area for me to dive in. I've been making like watercolor illustrations for a while, but not really like super serious as far as like how does a pattern work? Like does how do the elements arrange themselves? So this is one of my latest ones. I had a whole thing for watermelons this summer, and which led me to working actually with the Dallas Farmers Market because of some of the like pieces that I've done. So that was so cool and special in so many ways. So um, yeah, thank you for asking.
Yeah, on social media I saw that. So you created like a big sign for them with a
Yeah.
whole bunch of different watermelons?
Watermelon varieties. Yeah. So there
Yes,
were
I
like
didn't even know.
8 varieties in Texas. Honestly, I didn't know either. And that is like one of my favorite parts about doing these types of projects is like the educational component. Like I love to have art that like not only like is beautiful to look at, but also like tells a story or like informs in some way. So this was like just a perfect match of like and also I got to try like some of those varieties and oh my God, they were so good. I never knew watermelons could be so good.
I know. It's like, oh, that's so cool. That's why I love traveling too, because especially to like a local farmer's market,
Yes.
because you're like, I didn't even, what is this?
Yes. Oh my
I,
gosh. Yeah.
I'm a little food obsessed, admittedly, myself. So I find it's like, actually, that's all I want to do when I travel is
Same
eat.
here. Honestly, we are kindred spirits. We should definitely go on a trip together because
Yeah.
we will just find the best food places.
Yeah. I'm just like, the next place, can we eat there or?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're going there,
Fine.
but like food, when is this gonna like we need to make sure.
Yeah, I'm sad though because I'm when I go to New York with PXP, I can't eat right now. I can't eat sugar, wheat, or dairy
Oh,
or corn. So I'm
oh my
like,
gosh.
what the heck am I gonna eat in New York?
Oh,
You know what? I bet there's like really cool places that have like you can find them. I was just in BC, so like the western province of Canada,
uh-huh.
and you find them. You find really cool spots where you can find like it was called Be Love, and it was this like everything was local. Like
Oh,
everything was local
yeah.
and everything was gluten and dairy free. And I didn't know that those restrictions like that you could eat so well. Like
Yeah.
I'm a pretty good my dad's a chef. My mom was a really good cook. I'm a really good like I was throwing at 3 I would like break into the fridge in the morning like and cut zucchini, and then I'd sprinkle like there's a picture of it sprinkled parmesan on top. Like so like I was into it from the beginning, but um at this place they had like rice macaroni, so made from rice
Mhm.
with like broccoli and caramelized onions, and then they made a walnut parmesan, and it was just
Wow.
like every bite like I think it was like a cashew, like because cashews can be subbed for so many cheeses,
Mhm.
like and have that
Yeah.
creaminess
Oh, sounds
and
so
flavor.
good.
And like every bite we were just like so it's kind of a new like challenge and adventure,
Mhm.
which is so interesting. So I'm sure when I go I'll just like take it as a Google Map challenge that I have to
Yes.
find like the
Yes.
cool, spots where have those like, locally supplied, really delicious food. I
Mhm.
think
And
I know it's sad that I won't get to have the best hot dog or the best pizza, but I already did that in New York. I went one time as an art student and I got to have all the good stuff
yeah,
there.
see, now you're
Best,
gonna have other good stuff, other kind of
yeah.
good stuff.
Other things. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sad. Like people are always like, "Well, what do you eat?" I'm like, "So many things." Like you
Mhm.
just take it as a new challenge, and it's
Yeah.
like it really eat. I would almost give people like sometimes like, ah, just like try out of your comfort zone
Mhm.
for well anything in life, but eating like
Yeah.
it can. It's just like such a neat adventure, and I obviously feel a lot better because I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to eat those things. That's why we're not doing it. But um yeah, it's just like flavors. There's so many, but as a creative, I think your brain can find creative
Mhm.
solutions, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You always
Yeah.
find yourself in a pickle and you paint it, but you find yourself in a pickle and you're just like your brain like finds this different way to work around and make it work. Do you
Mhm.
find yourself is that what happens through a challenge?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do think it's also like a muscle, like the more we use it, the more like the better we're gonna be at thinking up of these creative solutions. So I don't know. I always like to encourage people whenever I hear in one of my workshops, people are like, "Oh, I'm not creative." I'm like, "No, don't say that." Let
I
me
think
show
that's probably
you.
one of the top things we hear.
I'm sorry?
Is that one of, like, for me, that's one of the top things I hear is
Yes.
I'm like, I bet you are though. I
Yes.
bet you can scrapbook or make a mean spaghetti and meatballs, or
Yes.
that's creativity, or you can, you know, drum in your car really well. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's creativity, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And like I am so passionate about sharing that message too, because it's maybe like watercolors is just like kind of like the gateway drug of you like try a little bit, you're like, that was good, but maybe there's something else out there that is more like more resonates with you. So I guess like yeah, I don't know. It's like that's kind of um that's how my experience has been is the more I'm working at being creative, the more I get creative. But it's definitely like a conscious choice. Like you have to try. Like it won't just come to you. I feel like it will once you're like in the habit of doing it, but you know, if that's kind of like a harder area to break into, I think one way is just to be proactive about it and like find opportunities where you can be creative, and then that will like seep through into other areas of your life.
Oh, for sure. And it's like a constant try new things.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, making yourself a little scared or uncomfortable.
Yeah. Discomfort is a big thing for sure in the creative life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, right? I remember making like my first videos, and it's just like it was such a struggle.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm like, you know, making them a couple times a week now. Like it's actually insane. If you would have told me that 3 or 4 years ago, I'd been like, yeah, right. Like it's just, and now I'm perfectly comfortable.
Hmm.
And it is really hard right away.
Yeah.
But what I did was, you just don't take yourself too seriously. What I did was make fun of how bad I was at it. And so I cut them up into
Yeah.
like sometimes I would just, oh, it was so strange. I just remember I would be like kangaroo, and like weird things would come out of my mouth just because I was so nervous, or I would just, yeah, lose my, like my brain just constantly turns like thoughts and things, and
Hmm.
I never can quite communicate them the way that my brain is saying it. So it is a muscle that grows, when you're like, I want to inspire people. I feel it. I just can't put it into words,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes. I so feel
Is
that.
that something for you too? As so you speak two languages?
Actually four.
Four. There you go. So
Yeah.
did you speak all four languages when you immigrated, or were
Uh,
you learning?
No, I spoke like so I grew up with Russian and Romanian, and then I was studying English like starting with 5th grade, and then like when we immigrated, you know, I was immersed in the English speaking world. And then once in high school I also picked up Spanish. And that I feel like that was I was kind of like I had the unfair advantage that I grew up watching Spanish soap operas in Moldova. So, like, if you
That is
can
so good.
imagine, I was like, I had the vocabulary of like a very dramatic, like, actor. And my Spanish teacher was like, "How do you know the words to blackmail?" And I'm like, "I just do, okay." But also Spanish is very like it's a Romance language like Romanian. So having, you know, the base of Romanian helped me kind of pick it up easier, I would say. So yeah.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Yes, I will travel with you.
Yes, let's go. Let's go.
And I will take you many places where I will just smile and they'll feed me and you'll communicate what we.
Yeah, exactly. We got South America. There's lots of speaking Spanish countries there. Let's go.
Let's do a workshop and
Ah,
be paid to travel,
oh my gosh. Yes,
right?
let's do it. That is the goal. That is the dream.
That's another thing artists and creatives can do is travel and, you know, fill your travel cup, two birds, one stone, and be
Yeah.
paid to do it, but also residencies and
Yeah.
or offer workshops like, hi, I'm an artist that offers workshops.
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere. Hello.
Yeah, I definitely think
Put it out there.
it's such a great way to like share of yourself of what you like your craft and connect with other people on that deeper level of like sharing this creative activity together. It's just like it's so good for the soul. I don't know, like if anyone listening has like even an inkling of like, oh, maybe I want to teach something to someone, like just please do it because it is so special and so fulfilling and just a wonderful feeling.
You're right. For so many years, I avoided like education or training or teaching because I'm like, but I want to be a successful artist. And for some reason, the art world says, and not as much anymore because of what we've seen with online education, but like they were like, no, you have to just focus on your craft. Like you
Mhm.
can't be put in the category of a teacher or educator. And now, like, I avoided it because of that stereotype, which is such a horrible, wrong stereotype.
Yeah.
I truly think educators are a gift to the world, and I think they are just so special. Not
Mhm.
only that, but once I started doing it, it was like, you're right. I feel like I get so much more out of it than I'm putting out into the world. Like, I know it's special to them, but like, it's just like, I can't even put words to how beautiful, especially when working with youth, like what it means for them to show up. When I show up with these kids and some of them don't even like talk at all. They're
Yeah.
super shy, they're super, social, especially now with what has gone on, like that
Mhm.
is where you grow your social skills and where you're supposed to be connecting with the people around you, and they're afraid or they're so inside themselves, um, and they lack exposure in the physical way. Like they're so exposed, but they're so inverted, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
so to see a young person and they don't speak at the beginning and then by the end of it you're laughing with them and creating, and they're like, okay, this is not so bad, like this, and or dancing out the door. There's some kids who really get excited, but like their teaching is so rewarding. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's a beautiful gift. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's kind of, you find yourself there and you're like, ah, that's why teachers show up and do it every day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's so priceless. Like there's no like yeah, I love getting paid for my workshops, but like I feel like that is icing on the cake. Like for me, the like connection and like hearing someone say like, "Oh, I've not painted in 20 years and I just picked up my brush and joined your class." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like my work here is done." Like mission accomplished. Like I
Yeah.
just it's like the best kind of like feedback I could ever get.
Actually, that happened with me one day. My photographer friend, Kristen Hickman, she's like so talented, but she went to art school actually, and had some like negative experiences, and then like went into photography because like it's a paying profession for a
Yeah.
creative, right? And then her children are equally as like amazing and creative, like in the arts, but they love performing and they love dance. And so she asked me if Ruby, her 12-year-old daughter, for her 12th birthday, could come to my studio for a portrait lesson. And I like don't really do that just time wise.
Yeah.
For me to individually teach people from like it, just to get rid of the boys for 2 hours is a challenge, big one. But she's my friend and I like her so much, I love her so much, I love her family. And so I was like, yes, sure. And then for some reason that morning I was like, Kristen, why don't you come and you do the portrait stuff with Ruby and I? Because I was just thinking like Ruby might feel more comfortable with her mom there too.
Mhm.
And instead of her just dropping her off. But I was wrong. Ruby's super like super great and she wouldn't have been afraid at all. But besides that, we just like hung out in here, and then I showed them my method, and because it's a method where you learn even if you don't know how, like to draw or anything. So I showed them, and then 2 days later, Kristen kept sending me progress shots, and she's like, "It's all I can think about. It's all I want to do. I feel so inspired. This is amazing." And you can see it on like my social media and stuff, like what she did. And I just like, I was just, it was crazy. Like, go and look. Like, it was so good. It was of her own daughter that she photographed, Lola. And I messaged her afterward, and I was like, we have to capture this, like, because it just opened up her own creative magic that she herself, for, like you said, 20 years, she wasn't doing it because of, you know, a bad experience or life, or it's not, you know, you can't make money as an artist, that whole thing. And what, yeah. And so she connected to it. And then I was like, I want, clearly I can teach this and make other people feel this same feeling and be totally, and I've done it with mentorship, and seeing other mother artists connect, and they get so obsessed. They're like, it's for me. This is for me. Like, I can also include my children, but I just, at night, I'm painting all the time. Like, it's just this thing, and people need to do it. Like, it's so undervalued. You need to find what you love, and you need to find a way to do it all the time. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because
that was a long story. Sorry, but
it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. I so agree. It's like we become better people when we do something that we love, because it's, you know, you fill up your cup and then you're able to show up better for, you know, those around you. And that's like just so important, because if you just constantly just pour out into others and nothing into yourself, then you're going to end up being miserable. I mean, that's I've been there, you know, I probably have all been there. So it's just a matter of like finding that one thing that really like fulfills you in a way that just is so special, and dedicating time to showing up for it.
1000%, because it's, you just wake up and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I wake up and run. I'm like, if I get my run done, I can do my stuff. But I also love running because it's it forces me to meditate in a way and clear my head. I go run music free and sound free. Because it's so, I know that like headspace is so important to find those connections and, like, you know, be one with nature. I'm so into that. But like,
I love it.
It just, you get obsessed about it. Hard to explain, but if we could have more people obsessed with waking up and doing what they love to do, like, what kind of world, the world would be a different place.
That is such a great thought, because it's 100% true. Like, if you wake up and you do that one thing that gives you so much, maybe not only physical energy, in your case, you know, running, endorphins, but also like just like emotional energy. And then for the rest of the day, it's like everything else just becomes kind of, you know, you've already like done the thing that you like felt so good about, and that carries over into the rest of the things. And I think that's very powerful.
And when you take care of you, and when you love what you do, then others will be inspired by it to do the same. I truly think that that you can't control the world around you. You can't control others, but you can control what you do somewhat. Somewhat. You can control that, and to be your best self and live your best life truly is a way to improve the people around you. Like, and so I think it's also important too, and I'm sure you can attest to this, of who you surround yourself with is really important as well.
Yeah. That old saying of the 5 people that you surround yourself with most, or like you're the average of the 5 people that you most like interact with. I think that's so true.
Mm-hmm. And what our theme is actually this week in my Color Me Happy community is the importance of finding community.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to talk about all my favorite communities. I have
Yeah.
many, because
Yeah.
there are so many great communities out there, and I really truly think you can find one that is like, there's communities for avocado farmers, like there's just communities for everybody to be a part of in whatever you're interested in, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm sure there's tons of watercolor communities. And there's tons for us. We're both a member of the Art Queens.
Yes.
Someone actually put on social media, I think I had Carmen Mardones, probably, but I had Carmen on, and she's like a fiber artist,
Yeah.
and she is in LA, and someone was playing the episode on one of their reels of me talking behind it. I'm like, my podcast should just be called Join the Art Queens. Because I talk about it so much, and someone had that in it was super cute.
I love
But
it.
it's because I'm so grateful to the wonderful women and the way in which we support one another and are proud and share in our victories. And it's hard to find that. Like, it took a long time.
Yes. I
I
so
know, because I
concur.
was a part of communities that sucked so hard.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I like remember
mean community.
starting out, especially like, like all of my friends were not into
Mm.
art. So when I like decided to pursue this, I didn't have any art friends, and I was so lonely for like the longest time, and I just felt weird and like didn't feel like I could talk to anyone that would understand like the struggles. And I also have tried like different all kinds of communities, and I think it was the Art Queens when it finally like kind of clicked. I was like, oh, this is the space. Like this is what I've like wanted to so badly. Like I would see, other groups of artists, like either they're like getting together or like having some kind of meetup, and I'm like, oh, I want that so badly. And I'm so grateful that Kat brought us all together through the Art Queens, because it really is like just such a good vibe all around of like people that are so supportive and just wonderful. I don't know. It's a very like it's 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 hard to find, but please don't give up until you find your like the one space where you feel super super safe to show up as your true self. I think that's so important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It just, because people will support you whether you're struggling or whether you're winning, and
Yeah.
they'll love you for who you are. So,
Mhm.
um, one last question.
Yeah.
It's sponsored by Red Bicycle Communications. It's called A Day in the Life. I want you to describe your picture perfect day, and what that would look like for you.
Oh, that's a great question. Picture perfect day. Well, I would probably still start with my usual morning routine, which is meditation and then a quick workout, and then morning pages. And then I do some tapping, EFT tapping, if you're familiar with that.
No.
Um, oh, it's like this. It's usually accompanied with different prompts. So if you're trying to work through something like on your kind of like subconscious level, um, it's very. So this technique has been very like successful to use in like people with PTSD. But even if you don't have like anything super like traumatic that you work through, it can help in other areas of your life. So highly recommend looking it up on YouTube. There's tons of videos, and I believe even Kat has a couple in her community. So it's just like a fun way to kind of like trying to, if you're working on integrating like something that you want more of in your life, then it's a great kind of practice. But
Oh,
then aside from that morning routine, probably going to like the farmers market, something that's like food related. I would love to one day create so something that I kind of aspire to is make an animation short. So because animation, like the hand drawn stuff, takes a long time, so it seems daunting. But like I would love to be able to work on something like that, on a project like that, where I can tell a story through watercolor animations. But yeah, and then of course, like, spending time with loved ones, I think is very important. Like, as part of my ideal day, I couldn't imagine not like having those connections in my life, or like the people that make me so happy. So
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And thank you for coming on today. Do you want to share where everyone can find you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Brandy. I really, really enjoyed this. So people can find me on Instagram. I'm at colorsnack, or my website, colorsnack.com. So yeah, I would love to connect with you if you have any questions about watercolors. Like, I'm your girl. I got you.
Great. Okay. We'll talk to you soon. And yes, again, so nice to finally meet you. And yeah, I can't wait to see more of what you do. And it's just, yeah, it brings me joy to see it. So
Oh,
thank
so
you.
happy to be connected with you. Thank you, Brandy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here, friend. I sure do appreciate your time. Again, be sure to check out our Taylor collection before we head off to the Big Apple and sell it all. If you want to invest in some artwork, we do have originals on our site, brandyhofer.ca. And yeah, I hope you all fall into the routine of life soon, unless you're having a fine time, because I'm not. But I sure hope that you find some ease in getting back into a routine. I'm really super looking forward to it. I'm also been putting off, like, this is so off course. I've been putting off, I want to see a show. Like, it's Game of Thrones, and I cut myself off a few years ago knowing that it was so time consuming until I like hit some of my really big goals. So my reward would be Game of Thrones. So I'm really hoping in the next few months that things settle down a little bit, not a lot, because that's not how I roll. I love to do things and take on the world, but I'm hoping for like at least a day or two where I can binge watch that. Don't ruin it if you've seen. I'm like in the middle, I think, of all the seasons. I'm sure it might take more than 2 days, but I feel like going to a cave for a second after 2 years of going on warp speed of starting a podcast, writing a book, making courses and classes, traveling the world all of a sudden, and murals and stuff. I don't want to stress you out. Don't be stressed out. I hope you fall into your routine, and clearly this is an anxiety-filled podcast. This one, not when we recorded with Volta. That was such a treat talking to her. She's like a little bright sunshine, and she was so fun. Okay, but you know what? How to relax is you listen to this beautiful song by my brother's band, Swear by the Moon.
A falling leaf that falls high. landing on your fake face.
You can take it all from me.
Am I the wallpaper that you hang when I'm out of style?
I will tear you down, tear you down.
I look suspicious, rip me open like a suitcase.
You can take it all from me.
Destroy the evidence that I ever came this way, and I'll be back again. I'll be back again.
You keep on fighting 'cause it's too hard to let it go. And you remind me of a West Coast overdose. Just treat me gentle and lock me up before you go. And if I should fall, oh my love, you will never know.
And I look expensive and you hang me up like a
You'll
painting.
never know, no, no, no.
And everybody walking by me says the same thing.
I'm bitter and bashful as I hunt for your finger.
If you're an agent for the unaffected underground,
Press them against mine and then I have one again.
you keep quiet or
Oh,
they'll
they'll
make you invisible.
Is that all you want? Is that all you want? Is that all you want from me? Is that all you want? Is that all you want? You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. Is that all you want? You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. You can take it all from me. Is that all you want? 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 Is that all you want?
If you're looking for some time for yourself to relax, release, and unwind, Oasis has the perfect space for you. They offer yoga and spin classes of all levels. Whether you are a beginner or advanced student, Oasis thrives on accommodating all aspects of the practice. Let their serene environment and gracious staff help you in your journey of peace, healing, and strength. Sign up online at www.oasishotyogastudio.com or by downloading the Oasis Hot Yoga Studio app. Feel like yourself. You deserve it.